As you likely already know, PHP is a solid application development platform. It provides services for handling email, interacting with databases, and a lot more. Because of its power and flexibility, it's easy to get in there and start coding your application. So what is a framework and why use it? Let's have a look. Coding in straight PHP can work, but if you're not careful, you can end up with spaghetti code. Long lines of code that have multiple interactions and typically have HTML code interspersed within them. It's easy when you're writing in straight PHP to do redundant work. That is, to have multiple PHP files that essentially do the same thing. When you go to make changes, you're then going to end up having to change both of these files for everything to work correctly. Without any solid form of organization, it's easy to have files here and there and not really know how your application is organized. If you're not careful, it can be difficult to reuse the code that you've set up for yourself. If you change one thing, there's always a good possibility that you'll break something somewhere else. Everything needs to be tested. When you're writing all your PHP from scratch, you're going to need to make sure that every piece of code is tested intensively. When you're working in PHP applications, if you don't have a granular structure, it can be difficult to have a team of developers working on the same code base. Frameworks can provide some help. More than anything, they provide a recipe for creating clean and organized code. When your code is granular like this, it's easy to test each individual piece and make sure it works in different cases. And when things are well tested, it's easy to reuse these little pieces here and there throughout your application. For the same reason, it's easy to make changes. Changing one small functional bit will then update that functionality in every place it's being used. Organization is good for its own sake. In most of these frameworks, you have a lot of pre-built and pre-tested tools included. Because everything is broken up in a more granular fashion, it's easier for different developers to be working on different aspects of the same application. The question is, should I always use a framework? You don't necessarily need to. If you're developing a smaller application, sometimes breaking up the code can end up meaning a lot of little steps when you're really trying to do one simple thing. Learning each of these frameworks requires a bit of time. There's different constructs to be learned, and how they organize the code. Everything is going to have to be understood in order for you to get in there and work quickly. There's no benefit necessarily to over-organizing your code. If you have a small application with a few different aspects, there's probably no need to break it up into a million pieces. The end result is that in an application using a framework, we have our code broken up in a fashion that's more organized, it's easier to reuse, and it prevents us from redundant programming. We can test these smaller pieces. We can get a head start using services included in the framework. It can also be easier for teams to negotiate working on overlapping functionality. Ultimately, frameworks lead to better organization of code, which in most cases can make our application development experience less painful.